What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Flame Racing Reviews. We're here with our Arlington GP preview. I can't believe we're already at round 3 in the NTT IndyCar series. Wow, these first 2 weekends have just flown by with St. Pete and Phoenix, and we leave with Alex Palou not being the championship leader. That's going to be a really, I think, cool storyline heading into Arlington, is the fact that Alex Palou is actually not the championship leader, which is pretty cool. So you guys know how these preview race videos work. I'm going to break down every driver and team out there, explain what I think is realistic and on the cards for them this weekend, and then I'll give my pole sitter, my podium, and then a few other predictions. Before we do that, I got to tell you about today's sponsor, Keepsakers. Keepsakers makes the most unique and cool IndyCar t-shirts out there. If you want to have some sweet merch going into the 2026 season or whatever track you're going to, you got to get Keepsakers because they have the sweetest merch out there. Now, that being said, let's start this preview truly with the best team in the sport currently, Chip Ganassi Racing. So obviously Chip Ganassi Racing has Alex Palou, but Alex Palou has led the championship from Laguna Seca 2024 to, well, it ended at Phoenix 2026. That's an incredible run, but he comes into this weekend 5th in the championship. I can't remember the last time he was that low in the championship. That's kind of crazy to think about. But he comes in to Phoenix 5th, and honestly, I think Alex Palou wants to get points back on the board. I know if the win's there, Palou will go for the win, but I'm telling you right now, Palou is just looking to get points on the board in his championship kicked off again, because basically he kicked it off perfect in St. Pete, gets wrecked, and he needs to kick it off again. Palou will just do anything he can just to get points this weekend. Scott Dixon is looking to probably kickstart his season after having 2, I would say, not so good weekends. Qualified in the back, and St. Pete tire fell off, wasn't able to compete at all, ended up retiring from that race. Phoenix qualified in the back, ends up 7th. It was an okay recovery drive, but he's going to be looking to qualify up front and run up front all day to truly get his season started right. And then Kiffin Simpson will be looking to do a Kiffin Simpson type race. Kiffin Simpson normally qualifies roughly I'd say 9th through 13th and somehow ends up in the top 10. Kiffin Simpson, I look for him to have a weekend like that. You know, he's got the 2 best drivers right now probably in the series as his teammates, so he learned from the best, and Kiffin Simpson I would expect to be up front not all day long, but I could see him up front at some points. I don't know why I said all day long, but Kiffin Simpson, I could see him at the front at some portions in this race. Or who could dethrone Chip Ganassi Racing? None other than, I think, the Street Course Masters Andretti Global. Andretti Global heads in this weekend with their star driver, Kyle Kirkwood, only 5 points behind Joseph Newgarden in the championship. Kyle Kirkwood is a street course master in Arlington, of course, is the street circuit. It's our version of the Miami Grand Prix. I can't wait to see this race. I can't wait to see Kyle Kirkwood on a brand new street circuit. And really, when you think about it, Andretti, when there's new street circuits, normally pretty much destroys the field. You think of Colton Herta at Nashville, and that street circuit debuted in 2021. Colton Herta, I think, got the pole by over a second. Colton Herta was unreal that weekend. Unfortunately, he ended in the wall for him, which I don't think will happen for Kirkwood. But when you think of Kirkwood, it should be a shoe-in Fast 6 and probably a win for Kirkwood. And you think about his other 2 teammates, Will Power, who's had a horrible start to the year, has had many wrecks in both St. Pete and Phoenix, and just wants a nice clean weekend to get his championship and season going. And I think this is the perfect place to do it, because if you're a betting man, you're betting Andretti is going to be quick here, and I bet Will Power on a street circuit will be quick, and I think Will Power has a good chance of being in the Fast 6 and competing for a podium. And same goes for Marcus Ericsson. You know, we saw what he did on a street circuit at St. Pete, and obviously Phoenix was a bit of a doozy for him, but I don't see why Arlington couldn't be a bounce-back weekend for Marcus Ericsson to show that he is on pace this year. So I think you could see 3 Andretti cars in the Fast 6 and 3 Andretti cars in the top 10 at the end of the day. And how about the current championship leaders? Team Penske with Joseph Newgarden. Joseph Newgarden needs to not do what he did in St. Pete qualifying, where he qualified 23rd. Joseph Newgarden needs to qualify up front and stay up front, because I think if he can do that and have a good result this weekend, I think he'll prove that he is a legit championship contender, and I would love for Joseph Newgarden to compete for the championship this year. I think it's good for the sport if Joseph Newgarden competes for the championship this this year? Or how about team leader Scott McLaughlin? Scott McLaughlin obviously had a great race in St. Pete where he finished second and then didn't have the best Phoenix, and Scott McLaughlin sits third in the championship right now as we stand. And if you're Scott McLaughlin, I think you just want to come in and have a nice, easy weekend. No drama, no chaos. Get some points, get a top 5, and just be consistent, because I think that's Scott McLaughlin's key to winning this championship, is being more consistent than Alex Palou. You don't need to win a lot of races in IndyCar. You just need to win 2 or 3 a season and just be consistent, and that should get you a championship. It might get you a championship, or at least will put you in contention. And I think Scott McLaughlin is looking just to be in contention after Arlington. I don't think he needs to lead it, so I think a top 5 is what Scott McLaughlin needs to do. And newcomer David Malukas just needs to keep building on his momentum that he's built for himself. He's got a pole position, he's got a podium, he's got a top 5 in qualifying. He just needs to not have any flat tires go wrong, any wall contact. He just needs to keep building the momentum. And if you're Dave Malukas and Roger Penske, if you keep building momentum, I think it's 2 thumbs up in that garage. Or how about McLaren with Pato O'Ward? This is essentially a home race for Pato O'Ward. It is going to be who is Pato in Arlington, and I can't wait to see what his fans do. I think it's going to be really cool to see the amount of support that Pato gets, and I can't wait to see it. And we're surely going to have an IndyCar driver feel like a megastar in the paddock, which will be cool to see. Or Christian Lundgaard, I think, could be a spoiler this weekend. He always runs super well on road and street circuits, and with this being a new road or street circuit, if he gets off to a quick start, Christian Lundgaard might be pretty hard to catch. And then Nolan Siegel, obviously Tony Kanaan said he needs to finish top 10 in the championship to keep his McLaren seat. Right now, Nolan Siegel is only 23rd out of a 25-car championship, so Nolan Siegel needs to start stepping it up to remain in that seat. Or how about the last 3-car team, Rahal Letterman Lanigan Racing, who didn't show a lot of pace in St. Pete, which was a street circuit, but showed a lot of pace at Phoenix, which was an oval, which is kind of surprising because we would have expected that to be the opposite, but it indeed was not the opposite. So what to expect from them, I don't really know. Louis Foster, I've been very disappointed by this year. I really thought he was going to make a step up. He's not made a step up, and I'm kind of worried about Louis Foster, so I kind of want to see him get his elbows out and get his first top 10, but I don't know if that's really going to be realistic. Mick Schumacher, I'd love to see what he can do. Obviously, he got taken out lap 1 in St. Pete, so we never got to see what he could do in a race. I just want to see Mick Schumacher be able to run all the laps, and I think that'd be a good day and successful day in the Schumacher camp. And then Graham Rahal, I think just continuing to lead the team is what he'll do. I don't know about result-wise for him, but as long as he can just lead the team and show everyone that Rahal still got it, I think that's a good day for Graham and Rahal. And then AJ Foyt Racing, who's had a pretty horrible year so far. Lead driver Santino Ferrucci crashed in lap 1 at St. Pete, really no fault of his own, and only was able to get 11th at Phoenix. I've been pretty disappointed by Santino this year, so I know Santino really wants to really get his season going until he can compete for the top 10 in the championship. And I think this all starts in Arlington. You know it's going to be a crazy race. If Santino can stay out of trouble, I think Santino could be a contender, but then again, we don't really know. We're just going to have to see. And then Kyle Collette, who I thought would be much better than what he is, and I've been pretty disappointed by Kyle Collette. And he's probably the driver who's disappointed me the most out of these first 2 races. I really want to see Kyle Collette show why is he an IndyCar driver? Why did he get picked? Because so far, he's kind of ran at the back and done nothing all year, and I'm kind of tired of it already. So let's see Kyle Collette get his elbows out and do something, and I'd love to see that. Meyer Shank Racing with that partnership with Chip Ganassi Racing. Obviously, Marcus Armstrong has been that team leader this year, and I can't wait to see what Armstrong can do in Arlington. You know, if Ganassi runs well, I expect Armstrong to run well, and I don't see why there's any reason Armstrong can't contend for another top 5 as he got in Phoenix. And then I think a guy who I've also been disappointed by this year, Felix Rosenqvist. Felix Rosenqvist has had a pretty terrible season so far when you think about Felix Rosenqvist standards. So I think Felix wants to get in that Firestone Fast 6 and probably wants to be competing for a top 5 with his teammate. He needs to get the gap closer to Armstrong. He needs to bridge that gap this weekend, or else I'm going to start being pretty worried about Felix Rosenqvist and a contract here. You know, Felix Rosenqvist, yeah, he's been good at Meyer Shank, but he's not won a race, and he hasn't had too many podiums. I think his biggest achievement is probably that pole position at Long Beach. When you start thinking about it, if he doesn't do too much this year and doesn't really step up his game, would Meyer Shank sign a different driver? I'm just saying. And then Ed Carpenter Racing. Obviously, Christian Rasmussen should have won in Phoenix, but due to circumstances, he obviously was unable to win. What's in the cards for them? What do we see at St. Pete? They were quick at St. Pete. I think ECR could actually surprise this weekend. I could see a top 10 for both cars. I could also see them being like 20th. So I don't really know what to expect for ECR. For me, every weekend, they're the biggest boom or bust team. They're either going to be 10th or 20th. I don't think there's really in between, and that goes for both Alexander Rossi and Christian Rasmussen. I just don't really know what to expect from them. And then Juncos Hollinger Racing with Rinus VeeKay. He was ninth. He was ninth in St. Pete, which was a pretty good result, but then I think he could have had more in Phoenix, but obviously we know what happened with Alex Palou, so I'll be interested to see what can Rinus VeeKay do this weekend. I think Rinus VeeKay will be pretty competitive this weekend. I think he wants to get another top 10 to start building momentum with Juncos. And then Stingray Robb, I think, has probably been one of the worst drivers this year, and I can't wait to see if Stingray Robb can turn it around. He probably, for being honest, he probably won't, but it'll be interesting to see what can Stingray do. Can he maybe get it in the Q2? I don't know. We'll have to see. And then Dale Coyne Racing, the final team on the entry list this weekend. They have Romain Grosjean and Dennis Hauger. Romain Grosjean was unable to start the race in Phoenix because his clutch failed, which is disappointing, but he showed a lot of pace in St. Pete, and so did Dennis Hauger. So I can't wait to see if they can bring the pace they had in St. Pete to Arlington. I hope they do, because when Dale Coyne's out front, it gives us an underdog story to root for, and who doesn't love an underdog story? So that being said, that is all the teams and drivers this weekend. Now let's give you my pole sitter for the Arlington GP. And I think your pole sitter is going to be Kyle Kirkwood. I think Kyle Kirkwood's going to get the pole this weekend. I think Kyle Kirkwood's going to be extremely competitive this weekend. And now in third place for the Arlington GP, I think it's going to be Marcus Ericsson. I think Marcus Ericsson is actually going to run a pretty good weekend, and I think Andretti is going to be very, very strong this weekend, and I'll be very interested to see if that prediction comes true, because I'd love to see Marcus Ericsson back on the podium. And P2, I did not write this podium down or my poll, so I'm kind of just thinking off what I said and what I think is actually going to happen. But in P2, I'm kind of just picking this one just for like the story. I'm going to go Pato O'Ward. I think Pato O'Ward on podium for essentially his home race would be pretty cool. I think McLaren could be pretty strong there. I don't know if they'll be strong as Andretti, but I kind of think this is leaning towards a Andretti and McLaren track, although I don't know. Penske and Ganassi could show up and dominate it. We'll have to see. And obviously, I think you guys know I'm picking for the win. I'm obviously picking Kyle Kirkwood. I think Kyle Kirkwood's going to be very strong this week, and I think he's going to win and take the lead of the championship. And I think Kyle Kirkwood is really in championship form this year. And then one bold prediction, I'm not going to pick certain drivers not to finish, but I am going to say 10 cars don't finish the race. I'm going to say only 15 to see the checkered flag. That's just kind of how I'm feeling. New street circuit, it could get pretty crazy, could have a lot of wrecks. I'm kind of thinking 10 cars will not finish the race. So that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed my Arlington GP preview. Hopefully that Phoenix TV number was huge. I'm filming this on Sunday, so I don't really know what the TV number is, but let's hope that IndyCar keeps capitalizing on this momentum and grows the sport. That being said, see ya.